It's World Environment Day today, as well as being CCT's 20th birthday party. So what better way to celebrate than talking about one of the most amazing environments on Earth? And I confess that I am one of Charles's wow scientists. This is me diving, not how you're meant to dive as a professional marine biologist, but really excited about being in such an incredible place. And Chagos, to me, really taught me about what our oceans should look like. It was really an incredible moment for me because although I have been lucky as a marine biologist to work and dive in many parts of the world, most of the places I work are under extreme pressure. So most of my work has been done in the Philippines, and you only have to look at this slide to get some indication of the pressures on the marine environment. And when I dive, I'm used to seeing habitats that have been destroyed by destructive fishing practices such as dynamite, and literally I've been on dives where it takes 15 minutes to see a single fish. And I work with communities that spend all their time trying to catch the last few tiny fish in our oceans. So obviously when I got to Chagos, it was like being in the biggest, most exciting, very diverse sweetie shop in the whole wide world. And I did a lot of squealing in a highly unprofessional way. And it was just incredible. I mean, you really got that grounding sense of what our oceans used to be like everywhere and what they should be like. And it really, although I'd worked to support the creation of the MPA and I'd seen all the graphs and charts, to actually live and breathe Chagos was a phenomenal and life-changing experience. And it's not only the sheer abundance, which we've documented as 6 to 20 times the amount of fish than you can see anywhere else in the Indian Ocean, it's also the behavior of the fish. So while you're trying to do your scientific transects in a very serious way, they come up and say hello because they've never been fished. And you can come face to face with a gnarly old grouper that just is curious to see this weird thing with bubbles coming out of it in the middle of its ocean. Basically, for me, Chagos was like living permanently in the highlights of a nature documentary with the very best parts. And it was quite extraordinary. So in that context, seeing some of the conservation challenges were all the more striking. And by that, I don't mean Charles and Picard. I actually mean the mangrove habitats behind them. So there are 2 mangrove forests on Chagos, on 2 of the islands. And what really struck me is that one of these was only discovered in 2010. You know, this is a real place where you're still making these earth-shattering brand new discoveries every time you visit. So this particular habitat is choked and swamped by out-of-control coconut plantations and is in desperate trouble. And we know from the work that has been done by the CCT scientists who actually discovered this forest in 2010, and from work we've done since, that if we don't do something, this entire habitat could be lost from Chagos within the next 10 years. We know exactly what we need to do, we have the expertise, and we just need the resources to progress the rescue and restoration of our mangrove forests in Chagos. On the other end of the spectrum, so from the islands to the big oceans, looking at one of the big decisions that was made was actually closing the Chagos to any fisheries in 2010 when it was set up as a marine reserve. And that wasn't an easy decision. But this stopped fishing, primarily targeted at tuna, but also had a massive bycatch, particularly of shark and ray species. Now that was fantastic. This has provided an incredible haven in the middle of a heavily fished ocean. The Indian Ocean is one of the most targeted and overfished and unregulated oceans in the entire world. But how do we know what's happening since? And what we've done is to work to develop new technologies and apply existing technologies to find out what's happening to those open ocean species. This has been a combination of existing methods. This is underwater videography being deployed in Chagos last year, to developing entire new technologies to be able to look at monitoring the big blue. And this is a camera system that we've established, which actually, in the pilot testing phase, it works. We can actually spot species swimming and living in the big blue. We can look at what's there, how many, and how that changes over time. And even with the limited amount of work that we've done, we've discovered entire new things. This is a false killer whale. that we didn't even know. It's the first record ever in this part of the Indian Ocean. So we're making new discoveries all the time. What we need to do now is to ramp up this work, to ramp up the technology, to build on our very exciting tagging work that we're doing with a number of partners around the world, and to really understand what's going on in this open ocean environment, particularly with the constant threat of very high value commercial fisheries throughout the Indian Ocean and indeed the world. So from the big blue open cutting edge wilderness and technology of Chagos to people. And if you've read anything about Chagos, you'll know there is some controversy surrounding the Chagosian community. So we at CCT have taken a really positive and a proactive approach and developed an entire environmental training program for the Chagosian community. We piloted it last year in the UK and are now into our second year with fantastic support from a number of partner organisations and from the FCO. And that's included a mix of activities. So we've had highly inclusive family fun days at both London and in Manchester, and we've just run our second year of events on those. And then to a more detailed training program for Chagosians working on everything, learning everything from experiencing diving to working at Kew Gardens on identifying plants to habitat rehabilitation on Hampstead Heath and so on. And last year we saw our first graduates from that programme, and they've now gone on to more intensive training through our bursary scheme that we're really keen to expand. As part of this work, we've also included a trainee scientist from the Chagosian community in every science expedition. And the first of these was Pascaline Cott, who's here tonight. And Pascaline really paved the way for the fantastic engagement of this trainee scientist opportunity on each of the expeditions, and it's been a huge success and something that we plan for every science expedition going to Chagos. Now, Pascaline has been just one of almost 150 scientists who've been engaged in learning more and making these new discoveries in Chagos, and the work has been hugely varied, from monitoring reef sharks to looking at coral cores to looking at crown of thorns starfish and doing work on the absolutely tiny invertebrates that live within the rubble and dead coral communities. But in spite of so many scientists and from many publications we've received, it actually only boils down to 37 science weeks that have been carried out in expeditions on Chagos, which isn't even a year of people being there. It's also, we know that only 3% of the entire environment has been explored. There's just huge amounts to discover. It is one of those places that you know you can turn every corner and find remarkable new discoveries. So as well as the value of doing repeat science work, which has really secured Chagos' place as one of the most important global reference sites in the world for what our oceans should look like, there's pioneering work to be done. And I was really lucky last year to be with Charles and another colleague, to do the first ever dive on the seagrass beds of Chagos that were only identified as an entire ecosystem in 2010. It's just extraordinary. And we're just starting to look at mapping that entire habitat now. And we didn't dive far from one of the 2 islands that's named after the dugong, or sea cows, which we've never seen in Chagos. They could well be there. We just don't know. And that's work that still needs to be done. So Alan, Charles and I have given you a very brief taster of the work in Chagos and what CCT is all about. And I hope it's inspired you to, encourage you to get involved in Chagos. Many of you here are already very active and engaged. But we hope that this just shows what a special place we have to work, and that everybody in this room can really contribute to doing something about it. So thank you very much for coming. It's a great evening and so exciting to have you all here. Thank you.